Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Matthew, the 18th chapter. At the same time came the disciples unto Yahweh Shai, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Yahweh Shai called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted, and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. And what the Lord was saying here is not that obviously you have to shrink yourself into a baby, but that you have to take the traits of a child, i.e. the pure mindset that children have, right? When it comes to believing the truth, when it comes to having that faith in the Lord, when it comes to even like the Apostle Paul said, in malice be ye children, right? Not holding grudges against one another, just like children do, right? If children are honest, right? If you tell them something, they'll believe it, right? Regardless of what the odds look like, they'll believe it because you told them to, right? They're not going to sit there and tell you, give me a 10-page research article on why this is true. Okay, so having that whole faith, and that genuinity of spirit when serving the Lord like a child is what Yahweh Shai was really getting at here. As it says, whosoever therefore shall humble himself, and also children are humble, right? If a child does something wrong, you tell them, hey, that's wrong, they'll understand, but they're not going to sit there and try to, like an adult would. You got children, adults that'll try to argue their case even when they know they're wrong. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were cast about his neck. A millstone is very heavy. So if you're chained to a millstone, and that millstone is thrown into the water with you, you're drowning. A slow, painful death. You're not swimming back up with that. So the Lord is saying here, right, if you offend one of the little ones of the Lord, the believers of the Lord, it's better for you that you had drowned in the ocean with a millstone around your neck. So you got to be very careful not to offend the Lord's little ones. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come, right? So you can't prevent it. Offenses are going to come. But woe to that man by whom the offenses cometh, or the offense cometh. And that's why you have to watch. Always examine yourself and make sure you're not offending, right? Make sure you're not in violation. Make sure you're constantly examining yourself, checking yourself, being your most intense critic. Wherefore, if thy hand or foot offend thee, cut them off, and cast them from before thee, or from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life halt and maimed, than rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. Now, once again, your hand and foot, the Lord is not talking about mutilating yourself here. He's referring, the hand and foot represent your certain things about you, right? Traits, aspects, a certain mindset, certain, parts about you that may not be ideal or good to be in this truth, that can get you in trouble, right? Whatever it may be, certain traits, you need to cut them off and discipline yourself, because it's better that you forsake and subject those things and basically just cut them off and enter into life, right? Into the kingdom, into deliverance or salvation, having lost that part of you, rather than keeping that with you and knowing that it's bad, it's a bad trait, and it can lead you into condemnation, but you hang on to it, and eventually it brings you into destruction. So that everlasting fire is not talking about a hell where you burn forever. Okay, it's destruction is referring to, in most cases, the second death, which is going to be for a period of time, right? That fire is going to be going, but there's not a place where you're going to have fire burning forever, like the mythical concept of hell, a realm of just fire where you just burn forever. Verse 9, and if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out. And it's the same concept here, right? If thy eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life with one eye, rather than having two eyes to be cast into hellfire. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. For I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Right. So of the believers, you have, angels, like the Apostle Paul mentioned that there was an angel in the book of Acts that was basically his guardian angel, you could say. So we all have angels that the Lord sends to guard, protect, and minister to us, right? Take care of whatever we may need. But you also have angels that report, okay, on us. And so you don't want to offend one of these little ones, because if those angels bring that report before the Lord, then the Lord is going to take action against you, and you don't want that. For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. How think ye, if a man have 100 sheep, and one of them be gone astray, doth he not leave the 99 and goeth into the mountains and seeketh that which is gone astray? Yeah, and like think about it. If you had, let's say, you were a chaperone for a school trip, and you do a head count after you get back from, I don't know, the park or the movie theater or something, and there's one kid missing. Are you just gonna say, oh well, I mean, hey, 1 compared to 28, shit, we still got 28, so we're good? No, you gon' shit, your heart is gonna drop. You're gonna be like, yo, you gotta do everything you can to find that one child. They become the most priority at that point. Where could they have been gone? Who saw them last? Did they go to the bathroom while everybody else was leaving? Like what happened? So you'll leave those 28 other kids in, obviously good care, and you'll go and search everywhere you can to find that one other one. If so be that he find it, verily I say unto you, he rejoiceth more of that sheep than of the 99 which went not astray. See, and going back to the example that I gave, like once you find that child, say they were still at the movie theater and they just went to use the bathroom and they missed the bus, whatever the case is, that relief and joy that you have is more than knowing that the other 28 are good, right? It's that, like, damn, and that's what the Lord is saying here, comparing that one sheep as he's about to go into to a sinner that repents. Verse 14, even so it is not the will of your Father which is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. See, so the Lord does not desire that any of his his sheep or his little ones should perish or should fall into condemnation. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother, right? So it may be that it was an accident, it was a misunderstanding. Maybe you just have to talk it out, right? And so you go ahead and tell him, talk about it. And if, you're able to squash it then and there, hey, as it says, you've gained a brother. Everything is good. Everything is sweet. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee 1 or 2 more. So you try to talk to him about it. He just wasn't hearing it. He's just not trying to hear it at all. Then you take 1 or 2 more people. And in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word may be established, because then everything that is said is actually recorded, right? You have witnesses that were there, that heard it, that saw it. They can confirm the words. It's not just hearsay, 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 she say, he say, she say, hearsay, you get it. And if he shall neglect to hear them, right? So if now you brought them, they also try to, talk to him, and he's just not having it, tell it on to the church. Now, if you go into that word church, it goes into like the assembly. So it says here, a gathering of citizens called out from their homes into some public space, an assembly. An assembly of people convened at the public space of the council for the purpose of deliberating. It says here, the assembly of Israelites, any gathering or throng of men assembled by chance tumultuous. So the first one there, as you have it, because now everybody would hear it, right? This is now like a bigger issue that is going to take more than just 2 or 3 witnesses to handle. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it on to the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, so if the assembly with the elders, all that come, they get involved, and this person still doesn't get it, they're still not trying to hear it, they're still not trying to, take heed or make right, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican. So at that point, you can just, cast him out, right? You can just treat him like a heathen man, right? Because he's not trying to be a part of the body anymore. And where we at? Verse 18. Verily I say unto you, whosoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Right? Going back to like what the Lord said concerning the Apostle Peter, right? About giving him the power to be able to permit things on earth and loose things on earth, which shall be confirmed in the heavens. So in the NLT it says, I tell you the truth, whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven, and whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. Because what? That would be through the Holy Spirit that would happen. So it's not like you just get up and just, yeah, you know what? I just feel like doing this, so I'm going to do that. Or I just feel like, just doing whatever and I'm going to do that. It's not how it works. Again, I say unto you that if 2 of you shall agree on the earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst. Okay, so that goes to show you that, the power of praying, having faith, and believing. All right. So if we, if you or ask for something, right, or as it says, you speak concerning something through in the spirit and power of the Lord, right, as he says, where 2 of you shall ask, the Lord is gonna make it. He's gonna make good on it. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Till 7 times? So how many times, if my brother trespasses against me, should I forgive him? Should I forgive him up to 7 times? Yahushua saying thought to him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. So basically the Lord said, and that 70 times 70 was the Lord just basically, it doesn't have to be a literal number per se, but it's the Lord showing like, as you gotta be willing to continuously forgive so long, right, as it is this person is deserving of it. Okay. Therefore, because if somebody is transgressing 77 times, at that point, they've probably already been guilty of what we mentioned above, right? Where at some point you try to talk to them, they weren't hearing it. You took 2 or 3 witnesses, they weren't hearing it. You called the church and they still weren't hearing it. At that point, they're probably already out of there. Verse 23, therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. For as much as he had not he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold. So here the Lord is saying here, giving like this example, this parable again, right? That you had a rich man, right? You had a servant that owed him, right? As it says here, yeah, a servant that owed him, but the servant couldn't pay. So the rich man says, all right, sell him and his wife and his children and all that they have so that they can make the money to pay me, right? And payment to be made. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me and I will pay thee all. So please just give me a bit more time and I'll be able to, gather the money somehow and then pay you. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion and loosed him and forgave him the debt. But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence, which is much less than what he owed his master. And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. It's crazy, right? So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord, after he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt because thou desirest me, right? You begged me, and I had mercy on you, and I forgave you all that you owed me. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? I forgave you. So you know what it feels like to be in a position to owe somebody and not be able to pay, and then have that debt forgiven you. But here it is when somebody else is in that position to you go and treat them this way? Yeah, no, you're cooked. And his Lord was wroth, he was angry, and delivered him to the tormentors till he should pay all that was due unto him. And when you read this in the NLT, says, Then the angry king sent the man to prison to be tortured until he had paid his entire debt. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses. So the way this relates is you pray for forgiveness, you pray for mercy from the Lord, right? Because we're not perfect. We all pray. But if the Lord forgives you or provides for you, but now somebody else does something wrong to you and they ask you for forgiveness, right? Your brother or fellow believer, and you are now not trying to forgive them, or you're being tyrannical towards them or hostile towards them. Meanwhile, when you do something wrong, you want the Lord to forgive you. Then the Lord is going to actually give you the same treatment you gave to somebody else. And later on, Yahushua expounds on this when he mentions about how he's going to separate the sheep and the goats. And he mentioned when he was naked and he was in prison and without, and you came and saw him and visited him and so on. That's referring to the way you behave towards your fellow brethren. It's like you're doing it unto the Lord. So if you don't forgive them, it's like if you didn't forgive the Lord. And so why should he forgive you? And that brings us to the end of the book of Matthew, the 18th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.